People in different places have different values. These different values manifest themselves in different ways, whether it's in behaviors or belief systems or clothing or food or any number of things. People are different wherever you go. People are different down the street here in the south part of Nacogdoches. People are different here on the college campus. People are different here in various places. What happened to my thing? There we go. All right, any ideas? What is international relations? Anybody give me a good definition? Oh. Well, go ahead, read it out to me.
Relationships among and between countries, societies, international organizations, NGOs, and multinational corporations.
I like it. I like it. What else we got here? You guys already printed it out. You stole my thunder. That's okay. That's okay. I'm glad you guys are studying ahead. Let's go with this definition. Or hold on to this definition because it's totally pertinent to public relations. Well, it is public relations. Here's the PR definition of international relations. It's strategic communications and actions carried out by private, government, or non-profit organizations. These things are also called NGOs. You're going to run into the word NGOs at some point in your life. To build and maintain relationships with publics in socioeconomic and political environments outside of our home locations. Let me read that again. Yes. Strategic communications and actions carried out by private, government, or non-profit organizations to build and maintain relationships with publics in socioeconomic and political environments outside their home location. One more time? All right. Strategic communications carried out by private, government, or non-profit organizations to build and maintain relationships. Does that sound familiar? To build and maintain relationships with publics in socioeconomic and political environments outside of their home location. So some of the issues you run into in international relations, of course, are going to be things like war, poverty, like, come on, where do you go? War, poverty, disease, diplomacy. I mean, there are just a lot. There are cans of worms. There are Pandora's boxes. There are all kinds of things in international relations that you got to be aware of. And a lot of times, diplomacy is very nuanced. Like, people might be saying one thing that comes across to you, you may be interpreted one way, but it is nuanced in a way that they mean something completely different. Anybody ever read Dune? The Dune series? Nobody's read Dune. Oh, man, it's like 8 books long. Okay, everybody go Google Dune later on. Dune, D-U-N-E. This is the most epic sci-fi thing ever. I mean, Star Wars, they got nothing on Dune. Star Trek, hot. Dune is the most important sci-fi universe ever created. There's like 7 or 8 books, something like that. I stopped reading them 15 years ago. Dune. That is totally, the whole series is about international relationships. Except it's like interplanetary relationships. All right, so here's what's making PR a global phenomenon. We've got a lot of political shifts towards democracy in various countries. Whether it works or not, that's another story. But we do have political shifts towards democracy. Remember our USIA from government relations the other day? Works very hard to promote democracy abroad, or American-style democracy. But it doesn't always work, because not all cultures are cut out for democracy. Some cultures have an authoritarian streak. Some people view authority, some groups view authority as the be-all, end-all, and they see authoritative figures as something far different from us underlings. In America, we're more or less equal. The CEO of a corporation allegedly is subject to the same laws as the rest of us. So we have less of a power distance. You might even take a look at your sheet I handed out. It's called PDI. It's called Power Distance Index. But not all cultures are cut out for democracy, but we are seeing a lot of shifts in different countries towards democracy. We also have instant worldwide communication. Remember Arab Spring and Twitter? You guys remember these things? Various revolutions occurring. What's that?
Oh, someone sneezed and she said blessing.
Oh, okay. All right. Various political uprisings occurring in various countries, largely as a result of Twitter and instant communication. You guys don't remember the Zapatistas from Mexico. These guys pioneered this type of activism. What did they do? The Zapatistas of Mexico are, well, they're led by probably some elite academics from Mexico City and other places. They don masks. Subcomandante Marcos, he's like in a class with Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, and all those. He has a pipe, he smokes tobacco out of this kind of curvy pipe type thing. And what did they do? The Mayan people have been oppressed by the Mexican government for, what, 5 centuries, something like that? These people live in extreme abject poverty, and so what did they do? In 1993, they rose up, and they started taking over different municipalities in this Mexican state of Chiapas. Does this sound familiar? Have you guys read about this in history? You think so? Okay, all right, so we got this revolution which is going on in southern Mexico. And so what was the first thing they did? It wasn't go out and grab a gun and go take the mayor hostage. These guys got online in 1993, 1994. They got online and alerted academics, various liberal entities, all kinds of people all over the world about what they're going to do. The Mexican government went online. I mean, they weren't paying attention. And so all of a sudden, everybody's paying attention to this little tiny uprising. The globe is paying attention to this uprising in Mexico. And so Mexico gets some of its airplanes they got from the U.S. to fight the drug war and starts bombing these people. Well, that created an intense backlash. But my point on this is they used the internet successfully. This is the first time in history. And now we've seen it kind of play out in other revolutions, other places all over the world. But something to keep in mind, I mean, we're all united by satellites, internet, information is constantly being transmitted, and we have a great, I mean, with this amount of information being transmitted, there's a huge demand for PR professionals. So you guys, you're in a great position right now because you're going to graduate into this giant flood of information that people need PR people to be able to manage. The 2000 Global Alliance for Public Relations and Communication Management met to share ideas, best PR practices, common standards, things like that, get better understandings of different cultures. Well, let's take a look at international PR. Here's some dynamics. You guys may be familiar with the concept of neoliberalism. Anybody know what neoliberalism is? Same damn thing as neoconservatism, but you know, as each word falls out of favor, somebody grabs on to the previous. It's sort of like Democrats and Republicans. It's just a machine. Democrats get in power, people get angry. Republicans latch onto that, use people's anger, and then get voted in the office. And then we have a Republican administration, and it's an alternating machine that's been going on for centuries. So let's see what's going on here. There has been a push, especially since the 1990s, for trade to become borderless. There's been a lot of outcry. You guys remember Ross Perot? I got a Ross Perot sticker in my office. Come by and marvel at it sometime. Ross Perot ran for president against George Bush in 1992. Wait. No, I'm sorry. It was 1988. And he had all these little charts and graphs. He'd get on there, and he was this Texan from Fort Worth, and he had talked with an accent, and he was a little short, bald guy. He said, you know what? If we do this NAFTA thing, we're going to have this great big sucking sound going straight down to Mexico. He was convinced that Mexico would take all our jobs. And what happened? Huh? What happened?
Mexico.
No, our jobs went to Indonesia and China. But no, yeah. No, a lot of factories did open up in Mexico. Did it take all our jobs? No, it didn't. But hey, he was partially right. I'll give him credit. He was at least partially right on that. We've talked a little bit about the International PR Association. In 1955, it was founded in London, and it's got members in 95 countries. And it's the same thing as PRSA. The idea is to raise the standards of PR practice, improve quality and efficiency of practitioners, and make better PR professionals. So that we can kind of shake this slimy image we have that's kind of a hangover from the 1800s of being spin doctors and snake oil promoters and things of that nature. So these professional organizations exist. IPRA exists internationally to try to implement standards and get members to behave in certain ways. But let's see. Something to keep in mind, I've already mentioned this, we're becoming more closely connected through Facebook, Twitter, social media, internet, satellite. I mean, seriously, what would you guys know about Afghanistan if there weren't TV out there, you know? Or the internet? Probably not. Has anybody been to Afghanistan? Has anybody been to Iraq? We've all got opinions on Iraq and Afghanistan, but these things all are based on the Legos that we get from TV sets. Does that make sense? TV gives us Legos, we play with them, build our ideas. All right, so there are pluses and minuses to becoming more positively connected. Something to keep in mind, international relations draws upon a lot of different fields. So this is why, remember I've said many times that diversity of experience is absolutely critical to practicing good PR. And international relations will draw upon expertise from fields like social science, geography, history, sociology, mass communication, political science, economics. Any anthropologists? Anybody taking that anthropology class? How is it? It's cool. You like that? All right. Cultural anthropology. Stargate SG-1 had a cultural anthropologist, but you guys don't know Stargate SG-1. And even law is a critical consideration when practicing international PR. I mean, people have been taking advantage of differences in laws since the dawn of mankind. Who all, well, maybe I shouldn't ask this question. Maybe I should just admit it. Before I was 21, I would go down to Mexico and get drunk. There's a difference in law. You have to be 18 to drink in Mexico. Or maybe it's whatever the bartender age feels like you are. 16-year-olds regularly go get drunk down there. So people have been taking advantage of differences in laws for years. Corporations have left America to go to Indonesia, China, other places where they can get cheaper labor, take advantage of tax rates. They've moved all their holdings to overseas accounts so they don't have to pay taxes in the United States. You guys remember the Walgreens scandal here about a month or so ago? What was Walgreens trying to do? They were trying to move someplace so they didn't have to pay U.S. taxes. And they were going to keep the Walgreens here. They were just going to be an international corporation as opposed to an American corporation. So taking advantage of laws is probably a primary drive for a lot of the PR that is necessary out there. Can you imagine how much PR is necessary to smooth over relationships as a company uproots from Detroit and leaves like a Mad Max wasteland as it goes to China to make parts to sell back to these poor people in Detroit who are no longer employed? It takes a lot of PR to smooth over that type of thing, wouldn't you think? All right. Let's take a look at some of the responsibilities of international relations. First off, you got to understand the foreign customs and cultural differences. This is not simple. You have to live this stuff. You can't get this from a book. You have to actually live and kind of see it. To be able, you got to walk another mile in somebody's shoes to be able to get this stuff. This is why you should study abroad now while you're young. Do it now before you have kids and they like drag you down and you can't do these types of things. Study abroad so you can hang out in the Zocalo in Mexico City or wherever it is. As a PR practitioner, you've got to be able to translate and adjust the brand product that you're selling. You guys have heard about the Chevy Nova, right? We know about the Chevy Nova?
In Mexico, no go.
It means no go in Mexico. No va. But it's not just translating the name of the product. You've got to translate the concept, the meanings. I mean, I'm not talking about a literal translation. Translating your brand of product, this involves translating feelings, ideas, and all kinds of different things. And being able to translate what you're selling, I mean, cross-cultural differences can make or break a PR campaign, so it's just it's vitally important that you be able to communicate in a way that makes sense to the host culture what the product in the home culture means. Does that make sense? Or does that just sound kind of rambly? I'm just seeing dead faces today. It's not even Monday. What is today? Thursday. You guys went to Big Ass Glass Night last night, didn't you?
No.
Nobody? What you guys lying? All right, what do we need to know about operating around the world? Here's something corporations have to understand. And this is a principle of life. This is something I've tried to hammer into you from day one. You got to understand how your actions affect the people around you. In this case, you got to understand how your actions may affect people in different cultures and different geographies. People react to stuff differently. In Mexico, it's not appropriate for me to say "Me gusta Fernando" unless I desire some kind of sexual thing with Fernando. I gotta say "Me cae bien." I gotta say "I like Fernando." I can't say "Fernando pleases me." You know how I learned that? I did it. I made that mistake, and it was awkward. There's a Spanish word for garbage. I think it's from Spain, or it might be South America. It's called cesto, or cesto, like a cesspool or something. I am in el cesto. And so I start talking about incesto. It sounds like incest. Molestar is another one. That just means to bother. That's innocent. Mundo hispano. Molestar, or to molest somebody, is not. It's in America where we sexualize everything. Start talking about, other things. Companies also need to know that they are the prominent standard bearers of their country. I mean, these are the people that represent us abroad. McDonald's, Nike, what else? Not Samsung. They represent Korea in a pretty awesome way, though. Whataburger, we don't have Whataburgers. A Kentucky Fried Chicken. Anybody eating at a Kentucky Fried Chicken in another country?
Yeah, it was way better than
Was it really?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, that wasn't my experience, but hey, anybody else? Hey, how was it? I'm just curious.
It's just, I mean, I didn't have it all like that much back home, but when I came to taste, I don't know, the oil it just tastes, I don't know, it just has this weird taste, like the chicken. I still like the fries with the chicken, just tastes weird.
Is it like greasier here, or just a different oil?
It may just be a different oil, it just tastes different.
Maybe they're not allowed to use lard here. Maybe.
Could
that be it?
That might.
Might be. Oh, we'll have to find out. Next time in Mexico, I'll go get a KFC and see if I can order like a number 2. Green?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
In Morocco, the McDonald's is green, and I think in England, I think Europe, they're making them green as well. Like, you know how it's usually red and yellow?
Yeah.
It's not like green and yellow.
Why? Any ideas why that would be?
No clue.
Do people like green? Is green associated with something different in Morocco? Like here, red is associated with different things.
I don't know if I should have thought about that. It was kind of late. I didn't have much attention. I was like, oh, it's green. So,
think about. Something to think about. Why would McDonald's translate itself as green instead of the golden arches in Morocco? I have no idea. What else do we need to know? I think this is kind of a cliche, but some people like this cliche. When you're operating internationally, you want to reinforce the notion of thinking globally, but acting locally. What does that mean? Somebody tell me what that means.
Say it again.
What does it mean to think globally and act locally?
Like,
This could mean several things, actually. What does it mean to you guys? That's what I'm asking.
be like think on a bigger scale, but related to where you're at. Like, hope bring it home.
Kind of like a win in Rome? Do as the Romans do? Kind of? But don't forget who you are? Anybody else?
Kind of like where you're talking about like McDonald's or whatever, like they're global, but I think within wherever they are, they're kind of like help the community, you know, it's like local.
Yeah, the McDonald House. Anybody given the McDonald House? He's got that little box of coins on the side of the building. What does Ronald McDonald House do? Yeah, don't they give...
Volunteer.
Tell us about that.
Charities in hospitals, and they help like the really sick children, and like the families come from like all over
Yeah.
because like they really can't afford it, so sometimes like go around McDonald's and give them like places to stay for like months,
Right.
and they take care of the children and feed them and stuff.
Isn't that awesome? Yes.
Yeah, one of my friend's little sisters just had brain surgery in New York, and they're staying at their own McDonald's house, and they're providing housing for them, but they still have to pay for their own food and stuff. It's just like a place where they can stay while they're there.
Okay. Yeah, it's not cheap to stay in New York. I mean, it's like a rat hotel will cost $200, $300 a night. Expensive. Yes, ma'am.
McDonald's going green because they want to promote a more eco-friendly environment.
That would make sense. What is that?
Look at you.
I'm the post.
Yeah, McDonald's is going green, swapping in traditional reds, backdrop for a deeper green, promote more eco-friendly Europe.
Okay. Well, there's our answer right there. So green is associated with environment and concerns and things like that. Can we still get like styrofoam containers with our
Probably
McRib?
not. Not there.
Not there. Do they have McRibs in Europe?
Yes, you do.
They are?
That's like one of my favorite things, and they only put them on like seasoning, which was annoying.
Oh, so this is a hustle McDonald's. You guys seen that Simpson episode, right? Before Homer. Yeah. Yes, the last McRib. Yeah, okay, never mind. All right, so we got to think about the takeaway from this is probably the biggest principle of PR I communicate to you guys. You have to know how your behavior affects other people. Know how your actions affect other people. Know how they're affected by you, so that you can adjust if you're making them mad, or you can keep doing whatever it is you're doing if you're doing a good job. That is a serious principle of PR. That is a principle of life. And it's also, turns out, a principle of international relations. Let's take a look beyond the U.S. Canada's got a lot of PR going on. If you guys want to get a job, you might consider Canada. Anybody been to Vancouver, Toronto? You have? Where?
I've been to Toronto, Ontario.
Could you live there?
No, I have family there.
You have family there, okay. But could you live there?
Yeah, I like it. It's nice.
I've not been yet. And I missed on my Montreal trip last week. I have enough miles for it.
I've never been like north of Canada. You know, I've only been like right there. But it's really, really nice. I like it.
All right. Well, a lot of PR going on there, especially Vancouver. Vancouver's like the LA of the North. Vancouver has tons and tons of actors and entertainment production going on. It is considered a rival of American practice in terms of its level of acceptance. Things like respect, sophistication, credibility. All these things are important for PR. In Europe, companies tend to pay close attention to their reputations and how they're perceived. So people pay a lot more attention. And while they're following the principle I just told you, you got to know how your actions affect other people. And so reputations are critical. Why would I have reputations be that important in Europe? Any idea?
Reputation?
It's the way the old world, old school type of thinking. It's been passed down for millennia.
Yeah, I would say it's probably old school, traditional type of thinking, like, you know, respect is what you have, like your reputation, how you're perceived, and I think it's, I don't know if it's a pride thing.
Right. We're going to get into something a little bit called, oh, it's not on here. Wait, yeah. Long-term versus short-term orientation. Well, we'll look at these here in a couple minutes. Let me get through this presentation. All right, China, they got 1 billion people there. Western-style PR is more recent because they've had a lot of government kind of PR, but it's about to take off. I mean, with 1 billion people, I mean, you can imagine there are a lot of PR needs going on. Let's move on. Latin America, quite sophisticated in Mexico. Oh no, I don't have time to show you guys the Mexican video. I've got a video put out by narco traffickers. Narco traficantes. These guys practice a lot of PR. I mean, to be able to exist in communities where narco traficantes are seen, or have been told, people have been told that they're the bad guy by the government, but they're out there, you know, moving in and giving food to people after like hurricanes and stuff like that, while the government's sitting on its laurels, or has, you know, squandered whatever resources it had to be able to help people during these times of need. Drug dealers will often step up and help these different communities. They also have a lot of like children's fairs and things like that. So there is a PR battle going on between the Mexican authorities and narco traffickers in Mexico. We don't have time to see the video because I want to get through this, but we might save it for another time. South Korea, I haven't figured this out. It's like, you look at all these like PR academic publications, and PR, I mean, the South Koreans are like the PR academics of the world. There's a lot of PR going on in Seoul. We've got a lot of companies, we've got a lot of expansion going on in Korea, in South Korea. I'm talking about South Korea, by the way. We don't know what's going on in North Korea, probably don't want to. South Korea, a lot of academic studies on PR going on. They've got access to a lot of population centers very, very close by that, you know, have 10, 15, possibly even 20 million people. How many people live in Seoul right now? Like 24 million? It's about like Mexico City, I think. Anyway, a lot of study, a lot of PR research going on in PR in South Korea. South Africa is the leader in Africa. We got a lot of PR going on up in Egypt. I don't know about Morocco. Does Morocco have a big PR scene? Okay. Well, you can find out. Please get back to us. That's your area of expertise right there. I don't know anything about Morocco. I know it's more of a Western-style Muslim nation.
Yeah, it really is. Like, my uncle's experience of like the dressing and everything, and they're not like strict with the whole the garbs and everything. They're very Western.
So we probably got a lot of French and Spanish influence, and vice versa. We got like a what do you call it? Cultural hybridization going on in that part of the world. All right, here's the big question I want to ask you guys. What is culture?
People's beliefs, religion, how they're raised, it's like a giant, what makes them a group of people. Like
Couldn't DNA do that?
I mean, no. Yeah.
Well, this is values. Okay, I'm liking this. Customs. I had one professor try to tell me that culture was like all about like flower pots and things people draw and like physical media, food and stuff like that. You guys agree with that?
But, I mean, art, I guess, in a way, but not in the sole definition, though.
Part of it somehow. The word culture comes from the Latin root that means tilling the soil. And here's something here. The collective programming of the mind, distinguishing the members of one group or category from another. I don't know if I like that definition. The category can refer to nations, regions, ethnicities, religions, occupations. Here's another good definition. The unwritten rules of the social game.
Game?
The social game. Unwritten rules of the social game. What the hell does that mean? I always kind of liked the like a self-replicating set of values. So using values or beliefs, I kind of fall towards that direction. And the point I'm trying to make is there's no single definition of culture, and they're all wrong. And they're all kind of right. This is a vastly complex question. We cannot answer that. Yes, ma'am?
10:15.
Thank you. Let's take a look at Geert Hofstede. We've talked about a couple of these already. Well, let's see. Okay, these are cultural dimensions. There are different dimensions. We'll just call it like a dimension is like kind of a dynamic of something. We have several different ones here. Individualism and collectivism. Well, they're actually polarized opposites. We got individualism on one end of the scale and collectivism on another end of the scale. This refers to, this kind of tends to be a perspective. Are we the center of the world, or do we consult with our group here, and our group's perspective is the center of the world? Does that make sense? Individualist countries, or what are some individualist kind of countries? Yes, ma'am.
U.S.
U.S., what else?
Canada.
Canada, what else?
Some Europe countries.
Mexico is kind of more, a little bit more collectivistic, but we'll take a look at that. Brazil tends to be collectivistic, but I think that might be in change right now. They're becoming, individualism is associated a lot with democracy. What else we got?
Australia.
Australia, definitely individualistic. What are some collectivistic countries?
Asian.
Mexico is getting there. I think Mexico is somewhere kind of in the middle. I can't remember, to be honest. We'll take a look at it.
Like China and
China.
Asian countries.
Asian countries. Cuba is probably very collectivist. I haven't. Yes. I don't know that. I mean, that may have changed. What was it 60 years ago? That's a good question versus now.
Spain.
Spain is probably towards collectivistic. India, very collectivistic. Bangladesh. Here's what we got. Individualism is defined as a preference for a loosely knit social framework in which individuals are expected to take care of themselves and their immediate families only. So it's all about us and the people around us that we choose to be around us. Collectivism represents a preference for a tightly knit framework in society in which individuals can expect their relatives or members of a particular in-group to look after them in exchange for unquestioning loyalty. A lot of people in collectivistic cultures will grow up with the exact same people and die with them. Masculinity. What's a good masculine country? What's a masculine country? U.S. is pretty masculine. What else? I believe Russia's pretty masculine.
Mexico?
Mexico is... I can't remember on that one. We're going to have to check that one out. China. We'll have to check that one out too.
Japan?
Japan is very masculine. What's a feminine country? Okay, hold on. What are some of the feminist countries? Feminine countries.
Italy.
They're very masculine. Maybe. Maybe. Just to mention, the feminist countries are going to do well with socialist countries like Denmark, Sweden, Norway, places that have a lot of that place it upon the value of the society to help take care of individuals. Kind of a feminine, motherly kind of sense. The masculine side of this dimension represents preference in society for achievement, heroism, assertiveness, and material rewards, so aggressive. Femininity stands for preference for cooperation and modesty, caring for the weak, and quality of life. There's actually, I think they've added a quality, they changed the name of this, or they've added the quality of life thing on here. So we get to uncertainty avoidance. Some people deal better with ambiguous situations than others. Other people like having clear-cut rules and knowing what they're supposed to do all the time. I mean, we run into different people of different types. Long-term, short-term orientation. This is, well, according to my sheet, the society's search for virtue. Long-term orientations generally have a concern with establishing absolute truth. Wait, oh, that says long. Short-term. Yes, this refers to, in America, we tend to think there is objective overall truth. We use science to try to prove that objective overall truth. Short-term, long-term orientation societies tend to look at lots of history and processes that have led to certain results. Does that make sense? We're not looking for a single over-objective truth. We're looking at different outcomes. Indulgence versus restraint. Do we like instant gratification, or do we like waiting and working hard and trying to save and things like that?